All right, today we're jumping into the autobiography of Reverend Myung Moon to really unpack his pretty unique and frankly kind of startling philosophy on money, on ownership, and on what it actually means to live a happy life. It's a way of looking at the world that pretty much flips everything we think we know about wealth on its head.
So, right out of the gate, he hits us with this incredible statement. At a time when everyone, and I mean everyone, considered him one of the wealthiest people on the planet, he just flat out denies it. This is the central puzzle we're going to try and solve today. So, you gotta ask, right? If the public perception was so off, what was everybody missing? What are we missing about his life and his whole relationship with money? And that leads us right into our first big idea, the wealth paradox. This is all about the clash between this public image of a global financial giant and his own personal claim of owning, well, absolutely nothing. And he wasn't just being philosophical here. He gets super specific. He says, nope, not a single house to his name. And no, he hasn't just stashed property under his wife's or kids' names either. He apparently didn't even have the official government stamp you need in Korea to sign legal documents. For him, money only had value if it was being used for a bigger purpose. Otherwise, it was just a piece of paper. You know, to really wrap your head around any of this, you have to get what he considered a good life. And that means we have to look at how he completely redefined that term. And this, right here, lays it all out so clearly. For most of us, living well means having stuff, right? Material comfort, affluence. He completely rejected that. For him, to live well meant one thing, and one thing only: to live a life that has meaning. You can really feel this idea in the lyrics from one of his favorite songs. He saw way more value in the proof of hard work, like a shirt literally dirty from working the land, than in any crown or jewel. It's such a powerful picture of what he truly valued. Okay, so that's the big idea, but how did he actually live it day to day? Well, that takes us to what you could call the frugality doctrine. This is where his philosophy gets really tangible, really specific, and, for a lot of people, pretty extreme. He believed in conserving everything on every level imaginable. He didn't think bathing every day was necessary at all. For him, once every 3 days was plenty, and a smart way to save resources.
And this obsession with conservation, it got down to the tiniest details. He writes about his personal rule of using just 1 square of toilet paper, which he'd fold 3 times to get the most out of it.
And it didn't stop there. Same idea with water. To avoid waste, he would only flush the toilet after it had been used 3 times. To him, this wasn't weird. It was just being responsible. And look, he knew this stuff sounded wild to most people. But he was totally unapologetic about it. He says right here, call me uncivilized, call me barbaric, I don't care. The point is, his conviction was just absolute. Social norms didn't matter.
And this whole way of life went way beyond the bathroom. His go-to shoes? A $40 pair from a discount store. The pants he wore every day were more than 5 years old. And get this, his favorite meal in America? McDonald's. Why? Simple. It was cheap and it saved time. He was such a regular, apparently, that the chairman of McDonald's started sending him a New Year's card every year.
So all these habits, they can seem kind of random, right? Even a bit eccentric. But they weren't. They were all rooted in one single, profound spiritual belief. And that brings us to the real why behind everything. The idea of being stewards of heaven. So first, let's just make sure we're on the same page with this word, steward. A steward isn't an owner. A steward is a manager, a caretaker. There's someone who is trusted to look after property that belongs to someone else. And there it is. This is the key. The whole thing boils down to this one idea. In his worldview, we don't actually own anything on earth. Every single thing, all the money, all the resources, it all belongs to heaven. We're just temporary managers, and our job is to use it all wisely. And from that core belief, you get this really clear 4-step mission he taught his followers. It starts small, with personal actions. Spend your money carefully and conserve on literally everything. But it doesn't end there. The whole point of that personal discipline is to build up resources, to then help your country, and, in the end, to save all of humanity. It connects the smallest choice you make to this massive global mission. Okay, so if living this way is the path to a meaningful life, what's stopping the rest of us from being happy? Well, that brings us to his final point about the single biggest thing that gets in our way.
For him, the answer was actually pretty straightforward. The main reason we have such a hard time finding happiness is that our own desires are constantly blocking the path. Our focus on what we want for ourselves just blinds us to the real road to fulfillment.
And he leaves us with this incredible metaphor. But it's really a question for all of us, isn't it? In our own lives, are we so busy, so focused on picking up the little scraps of gold right in front of us, that immediate satisfaction, that we totally miss the real treasure, the huge pile of gold that's waiting just a little further down the road? What a thought to leave us with.